Espresso. It is the foundation of almost every coffee drink you have ever seen on a cafe menu. Espresso is made by forcing a small amount of very hot water through finely ground coffee beans under high pressure. The result is a tiny, concentrated shot of coffee with a rich flavor and a thin layer of golden foam on top called crema. A single shot is about 30 milliliters, but most cafes pull double shots as their standard. Espresso originated in Italy in the early 20th century and quickly became the base from which an entire world of coffee drinks was built. Americano. An Americano is simply espresso diluted with hot water. The ratio is usually 1 or 2 shots of espresso topped with around 150 to 200 milliliters of hot water. The result is a drink that looks similar to drip coffee, but has a noticeably different flavor profile, cleaner and slightly more intense. The name is believed to have originated during World War II, when American soldiers stationed in Italy added water to espresso to make it closer to the coffee they were used to back home. Cappuccino. Cappuccino is one of the most iconic coffee drinks in the world. It is made with equal parts espresso, steamed milk, and milk foam, layered carefully in that order. The drink originated in Italy and takes its name from the Capuchin friars, whose robes matched the brown color of the finished drink. A traditional cappuccino is small, usually around 150 to 180 milliliters, and the foam on top is thick and dry rather than silky. It is meant to be sipped slowly and is traditionally a morning drink in Italian culture. Latte. A latte is the most popular espresso-based drink in most Western cafes. It is made with 1 or 2 shots of espresso and a generous amount of steamed milk, usually around 240 to 350 milliliters, finished with just a thin layer of microfoam on top. The word latte simply means milk in Italian. Because of its high milk content, a latte has a much milder and creamier flavor than a cappuccino or a straight espresso. It is also the drink most commonly associated with latte art, where baristas pour steamed milk in patterns to create designs on the surface. Flat white. A flat white sits somewhere between a cappuccino and a latte. It uses a double shot of espresso but much less milk than a latte, usually around 150 to 180 milliliters, with a very thin layer of velvety microfoam rather than thick froth. The drink originated in Australia and New Zealand during the 1980s, though both countries still debate which one created it first. Because the milk volume is lower, the espresso flavor comes through much more strongly than in a latte, making it a favorite among people who want a milky drink that still tastes seriously of coffee. Macchiato. The word macchiato means stained or marked in Italian, and that is exactly what this drink is. A traditional espresso macchiato is a shot of espresso with just a small dollop of foam or a splash of steamed milk on top, enough to slightly soften the intensity without hiding it. There is also a latte macchiato, which reverses the ratio entirely. In a latte macchiato, a glass of steamed milk is stained with a shot of espresso poured through the foam, creating visible layers. The two drinks share a name but are quite different in size, flavor, and presentation. Mocha. A mocha combines espresso with chocolate and steamed milk, making it one of the sweeter options on most coffee menus. It is essentially a latte with chocolate syrup or cocoa powder mixed in, and it is usually topped with whipped cream. The drink takes its name from the city of Mocha in Yemen, which was historically one of the most important coffee trading ports in the world and was known for naturally producing coffee beans with a subtle chocolatey flavor. Today, the mocha is one of the most approachable coffee drinks for people who are just beginning to explore cafe menus. Cold brew. Cold brew is made by steeping coarsely ground coffee in cold or room temperature water for an extended period, usually between 12 and 24 hours. Unlike iced coffee, which is simply hot coffee poured over ice, cold brew is never exposed to heat during the brewing process. The result is a smooth, low-acid concentrate that can be diluted with water or milk before serving. Cold brew became widely popular in the 2000s, particularly in the United States, and is now found in nearly every major cafe chain and grocery store around the world. Nitro Cold Brew. Nitro Cold Brew takes regular cold brew coffee and infuses it with nitrogen gas under pressure, similar to the process used to make draft beer. When poured from a tap, it produces a thick, creamy cascade of tiny bubbles and a foam head that sits naturally on top without any milk or cream added. The nitrogen gives it a smooth, almost silky texture and a subtle natural sweetness. It is served cold and without ice, so the dilution does not affect the experience. Nitro Cold Brew became a mainstream offering after Starbucks introduced it to its menu in 2016. Ristretto. A ristretto is a shorter, more concentrated version of an espresso. It uses the same amount of ground coffee, but only about half the water, resulting in a thicker, sweeter, and more intense shot. Because less water passes through the grounds, fewer bitter compounds are extracted, which gives the ristretto a flavor that is paradoxically more powerful yet smoother than a standard espresso. It is a drink mostly appreciated by serious coffee enthusiasts and is the preferred base shot in many specialty cafes when making milk drinks, because its concentrated flavor cuts through the milk more cleanly. Lungo. A lungo is the opposite of a ristretto. It uses the same amount of ground coffee as a standard espresso, but twice the water, resulting in a longer, more diluted shot. The extra water pulls out more compounds from the grounds, giving it a slightly more bitter and thinner flavor compared to a standard espresso. It is popular in parts of Europe where a slightly larger black coffee is preferred without the full dilution of an Americano. The word lungo simply means long in Italian, referring to the longer extraction time the additional water requires. Turkish coffee. Turkish coffee is one of the oldest brewing methods still in everyday use. Very finely ground coffee, almost powdery in texture, is combined with water and sometimes sugar in a small, long-handled pot called a eazy. The mixture is slowly heated until it foams and just begins to boil, then poured directly into small cups without filtering. The grounds settle to the bottom of the cup over a minute or two, and the drinker sips carefully from the top. Turkish coffee has a strong, rich flavor and a thick body. It is deeply embedded in the social culture of Turkey, the Middle East, and parts of the Balkans, where it is traditionally served to guests as a sign of hospitality